See how she survived overnight. Not too bad in here. I'm gonna shake some of that snowfall off. Ouch! Remind me not to do that with my bad arm. It's looking better already. Might need to retension the back here a little bit where the snow is, but got the cool extra large Seek Outside stove. Had it burning last night. All the nice ashes in there. You got a screen door and a regular door here. Still got a lot of good snow coming down. Plenty of firewood. Let's fire this bad boy up. Ooh, that's hot. Let's sit a while. Nice cozy place. This is the Seek Outside Courthouse. It's supposed to be rated to comfortably fit 3 people. You can have cots in here. You could probably fit some double bunk bed style cots if you really wanted. Span that out to at least 4 or 5 people. You got the Seek Outside extra large stove in here. It's keeping it fairly warm. Just started this a little bit ago. So I'm melting some of the condensation and junk off of the tent. Knocked a bunch of the snowfall off. And just kind of waiting for things to warm up till I take my jacket off. But it's nice and toasty right here where I'm at. The hot tent season's definitely begun. This is beautiful, man. I long for this. This is great out here. So it's right at December. Got a little bit of snowfall coming down here. Knocked probably an inch or so off of the tent earlier. It's still coming down. I think they said anywhere from 2 to 4 inches might come down depending on where we're at in the area. All the stuff right now is pretty much from the heat of the tent. It's all melting and staying as liquid on the outside, but without the heat going on in here from that wood stove, all that stuff would just start collecting as snow on top of the tent. And every once in a while you'll kind of see and hear a little sizzle on the stove because there's water that's coming down just a little hole around the stove jack up top. It comes down and sizzles on that stove top, and that's great. See that little bit of an air gap there? So you just slide that pipe on through, and whatever little bit leaks down really isn't going to hurt you. I mean, you ain't going to have it supremely airtight in there, nor do you want it to be. Ooh, here's a nice little drop that's searing down the pipe. It's kind of neat. You just hear it coming on down. Look at that cherry red glow, man. That's what it's all about. The nice thing about this tent, besides the fact you can fit cots in here, if you got a hammock stand, you can technically fit a hammock in here too. Trick to sleeping overnight in a tent like this is, if you're going to use a wood stove, your heat is going to be there for evening time and morning time, but overnight you're going to have insulation for the worst case temperature that you're going to get down to. If you have something like a propane vented New Way stove, which I do have, that will give you a steady source of heat. Maybe not as many BTUs, but it'll give you a nice steady source of heat overnight, and you can kind of accommodate with that. Or if you have one of these little 5 or 8 kilowatt diesel heaters that a lot of people have, you can vent one of those for the heat to come into the tent, keep all the exhaust outside, and that'll keep you moderately warm, maybe into the 50s or 60s. Wood stove will make you nice and toasty while you're here, while it's roaring, but you won't get much overnight heat with it. It'll burn for maybe an hour and a half, and then you pretty much have to restoke it or just let it go out. But with a hammock, if you're going to sleep in it and not just lounge for the day, you definitely want to have some sort of underquilt and top quilt protection, just so that you stay warm enough in this overnight. It'd be the same way as sleeping in a cot. You want to have some sort of insulation under you so that the cold air doesn't just rob the heat from your back. And likewise, on top of you, you want to have adequate insulation. This is pretty nice, though. Now, this type of stand from Kammok, I need to adjust it a little bit, but these, I'm kind of laying in it reverse at the moment from what I normally do. Normally I would be feet to the right instead of to the left, but for the camera's sake, I'm just kind of lounging like this right now. This being a shorter stand, there is an extension that'll let it go out a little further for more of a traditional sized sleeping hammock. These lounging ones, you're maybe going to get about 8 feet of room, which isn't really good for a comfortable night's sleep. You want to have at least 10 and a half, maybe 11 feet, which would give you about a 9 and 9.5 foot ridgeline area to sleep in. So it can be done with this. I have done it before, but there's some options out there, like hammock hot tents that are dedicated just for that you mount between 2 trees, and you can get a proper lay in those. But with this, I mean, for lounging around, doing this stuff, you can do it in a pinch. Did this in a 16-man Seek Outside teepee before. That's not too bad. I might take my shoes off. Yeah. Nighty night. I can feel the heat from that stove on my back. Oh, that's great. That is one good safety thing to note, though, is any sort of insulation that you have, since you have a heat source in here, you definitely want to make sure that you keep things sufficiently away from the fire and away from the stove. I'd say at least 1 to 2 feet, very minimum, 2 feet's better than 1. So you don't want to scorch plastics. You don't want to melt them. Some materials like wool and stuff, they could shrink up too in the heat. So, you can be this far away from it. It'll get hot, just like those poles get hot in the tent. But it's not really going to burn per se, unless it's like right up on it, touching it. But that's one way too. You can warm up firewood. You can warm up other stuff. You use the property of that stove to your advantage. But I've seen people, I've tried it a little myself, but not to a great extent. I've seen people use like bricks and stones and other things around their stove just to be able to get a little better heat storage, which it kind of robs it from going out to the tent, but it soaks it in and it gives it more of a long, gentle, radiant heat. That's one thing you can do if you've got a base camp or something that you're doing this in. If you're backpacking in, you want to go as light as possible on these. In that case, you're probably sleeping on the ground instead of on a cot, unless you have like a Helinox 2-pound cot or something like that. But for most purposes, I don't know. If you got a base camp, you get a cot, you're 15 inches off the ground. You're in that nice thermal zone that makes it a little more comfortable. If you get up, a foot or two off the ground, you're going to be a lot warmer in these types of tents than you would if you're sleeping straight on the ground on a pad. Just because the air is going to be the coldest down there. And that's where most of your condensation is going to happen too on your tent in the morning, at first foot or two. But you get above that and you stay nice and toasty warm to an extent, relatively speaking. But these wood stoves are great. Now this is the great way to spend a weekend. Snowing outside. Nowhere really to go on the roads. Don't want to go anywhere. Don't want to spend a bunch of money. Just lounge and relax and enjoy the heat of a fire and pitter patter of the snow on the tent. Cars in the distance. So I've had this tent, I want to say, I don't know if I've had it 6 months or if I've had it as long as a year. I'd have to look up when I actually bought it, but I got this one. It was a discount. I think it was like a demo model or something that they had used before. So I got a pretty good discount on it at the time, and about the only time you get discounts on their tents is if they have like scratch and dent models or returns or things like that, or the Black Friday sale, and that's pretty much it. If you want to get like 10-15% easily off of a tent, take you back to say 2023 prices or something, but everything keeps increasing every year. So anywho, I've had my eye on one of these for a long time, and I've got a big canvas wall tent, which is nice, but it weighs a ton. It's like 55 pounds just for the canvas, and then you've got the pole set, which is probably another 18 pounds, and then you've got the floor, which is heavy, which sometimes I use, sometimes I don't, and then the big wood stove that I use with it, which is like 70 pounds, and that is a beast. It's comfortable, it's warm. The only bad thing about the canvas, I know it breathes very well, but if it gets wet, it will rain down on you. That's one disadvantage, and then the weight of packing everything up and then having to take it home, set it up, and re-dry it. Of course, with the sill nylon and stuff, you're still going to have to dry it out a little bit before you pack it up at home. But it doesn't retain the water as much as, say, canvas does. So you can string this up. It's a lot lighter, and I'll put some specs up for, you know, size, weight, and all that stuff. I don't know it off the top of my head, but it's pretty nice though, just to have an option. It's kind of like a wall tent. I know Cabela's and some others sell things like this, where they've got big 12 by 12s and whatnot. This is a little more quaint. I don't think this is quite a 12 by 12. It's probably like a, could be like, it could be a 10 by 12. It could be a 10 by 10, 8 by 10, something like that. But I'll put those numbers up there, and but you know, it's decent for what it is. Ooh, got a little puck light up there. So that's a BioLite, little puck light. It's got a bungee cord on the back so you can strap it on poles and whatnot. You start to see some of the shadows of nearby tree branches. It's getting dark in here now. The little floaters in the air. All the crazies out on the road this hour. Got a few little knicky-knacks over here on my side table. My tea's doing pretty well. So you see, just got dirt on the floor. There's no real reason that you need to have a floor or anything, because the bugs are pretty much hibernating or dead this time of year. And this allows you to just walk in, not have to worry about tracking dirt anywhere, because, well, it's dirt. But one of the funny things was earlier, before it started getting dark, I was sitting in here and took my coat off, and I was looking behind me, and I saw a mosquito flying in here. I'm like, really? The little buggers? I mean, they came out of hibernation like that. So, yeah, I mean, you can still get some bugs that haven't like quite died off yet, that just kind of hibernating, and then they just feel a little bit of warmth and they come back out. Ladybugs will do that. Mosquitoes will sometimes do that. This is kind of funny, like some of the bugs that you would think they'd be gone, but they're not. And part of that's been that we've still had decent 60, 70 degree days recently, and then we just kind of hit this little cold spot, and it's gonna stay cold for at least another week. So I'm gonna probably have this tent out here for a while and just have some fun with it, and you know, might try the diesel heater with it and the New Way stove or something, see how they perform. But I always like getting out, just relaxing, lounging in these. Yeah, you got to restoke the fire, of course, with a wood stove every hour, hour and a half or so. You're lucky if you can get 2 hours of heat out of it, but it's nice, cozy, warm heat, though. It will lull you to sleep, that's for dang sure. The gas, propane, that sort of stuff, it's more constant. You don't have to fiddle with it, but you know, you got other factors that you got to worry about with those sometimes. And then, you know, mechanical pumps or running out of fuel or other things. Firewood's a little easier to get. You don't have any CO2 issue or carbon monoxide issues so much with it. I mean, these tents have enough ventilation, air can get under the bottoms. You know, you got a nice draft coming up through the stovepipe, so anything that is here is just kind of up the pipe. And you know, a lot of people are worried about carbon monoxide and hot tents, and As long as you're not in like a completely sealed up plastic bag, you're probably alright. I mean, you're going to have some ventilation coming through these, and as long as all your fumes go out a stack somewhere and don't stay in your tent, you should be alright. I haven't really had any problems. Just don't ever burn wax logs. That's the only advice I will give, because it'll clog up everything in your pipe and your spark arresters, and then it'll smoke you out in the middle of the night, and that's no fun. Burning eyes and choking and trying to take the stove out, and then once it hits oxygen, oomph, you know. So, but you use a nice hardwood, or if you find some wood out in the woods that, you know, you just split and quarter it. You get to the inside of it, as long as it's off the ground. I wouldn't take stuff that's been sitting on the ground a long time, because that'll be wet, but anything that's been up, you know, kind of hanging around a foot or two off the ground, or looks pretty much dead, as long as it's not green wood, yeah, you can split that stuff, and it'll usually be dry in the center and burn pretty well. There's a few species I wouldn't burn, like hemlock, or what else? Locusts, stuff like that, where you got the thorns and whatever. Those ones burn hotter than heck, but you know, ash and oak, and sometimes pine. Pine's going to make a lot of creosote and crap, but I think for a night or two you'll be fine. If you're burning it all the time for months on end, yeah, you'd have some troubles with your flue, but I think most of what you find out there is alright. Just don't burn treated lumber. You just don't want any poisonous stuff coming back at you. But yeah, this is nice. I'm just waiting for the wood stove to kick back up a little bit, threw some more logs on, and it was cooling down in here, so I put my jacket back on. And, got the fire going again, finally. That glass door makes a nice amount of light output with the fire going in here. So it makes it nice and quaint and cozy. So, in case you're wondering, that is a Seek Outside door. I have seen people try to make their own. Basically, that's pyrocerium. It's like a ceramic glass, and that sucker will, I think, be rated like 3,000 degrees or something, but it's not your standard tempered glass. It's actually like ceramic or so, and then they polish it to make it kind of clear. But Seek Outside was pretty nice. They made a frame around it so it slides in the regular door insert a lot nicer. And there's other stove models out there from companies like Pomali and others that have the glass doors. I'm not sure what kind of glass they use on theirs, but this is kind of nice because you can just order the door by itself. If something ever happens to it, you can order a new door. If you bought a stove from them years ago, you can add a door. I think they have it in the medium, large, and I think there's 3 sizes. Maybe they got these, at least 2, but I got one for my medium stove, and I got one for this extra large stove here. So that's nice. It's first time getting to use it, and makes a heck of a difference. The ambiance. Gotta love that glow. Whew, cherry red. Ooh. And good thing about waiting a while too. Is that my peppermint tea is finally at nice temperature. It's not going to scald my mouth. Now we set that back down on the stove, warm it up some more, get it nice and hot. I drank a lot of it, so there isn't really too much left in the cup. Can't really see it. Let's turn the flash on. There we go. You can see there's just a little bit left in there. I could pour some more water in. Oh, the sounds of the deep backwoods. Definitely a lot nicer inside there. Much better in here. I took some snow load off the bottom on both sides there. That helped open that back part up a little bit better. But I think at this point, the warden's calling me, so I'm gonna venture forth and see what she needs. She's in her sensitive time at the moment, so I need to accommodate to her needs and come back out here in a while and hang out some more. But see you in a bit. Toodaloo. That's only about 225 in there. We got some granite blocks, warm to the touch. These guys are fairly hot to the touch, but not really cooking the way I would have thought they would. So I may end up putting them underneath the stove, get them to go a little hotter. The fire's dying down pretty well. Let's go see how these potatoes are. Well, I feel a little soft. Curious how the center of them's going to be. But I had them originally on a shelf in there, and then I put them on the actual pieces of granite. So I figured there was a little better thermal transfer by doing that. I feel like the one side's a little softer than the other, but we'll see. Ooh. Well, everyone, I've had this thing up for a few days and lounged in it quite a bit in the evenings. Nice and cozy inside. Get that wood stove going and brew up some tea, cook some food. Made a few sweet potatoes and some other stuff in there, and I had some fun, but I've been running a touch of bronchitis and stuff, so haven't really slept out in it this time, just because I'm trying to get everything to heal up. And yeah, just trying to keep myself on the mend. But seems like a fairly comfy tent. And definitely accommodate several guys in here with cots. I'll just show you real quick. So I got the door open, Shangri-La, letting it air out a little bit. I'm gonna probably take this sucker down soon, but got my Kammok hammock stand in here. You can see the side skirt. Got a little bit of water condensation down there. So the walls are kind of dry right now, but at nighttime they get real wet from all the cold air condensing on them. I got that little vent window open right now, so I get a little crosswind in here. I still got plenty of wood left. Wasn't too bad on the wood burning. That cool little chair and table there from Cabela's, and got this old Coleman oven here. So showed it a little bit at night in the one video, but yeah, 2 pieces of granite that I cut. They were already polished, and I had a whetstone cutter. So I went and cut the scrap piece down to a couple of these, about 10 by 10 or so. And it gave some good thermal mass. I tried cooking potatoes up on here at first, and they were doing somewhat alright, but they were only getting up to like 250. Eventually I put them down on the block itself, and that seemed to cook it a little better because there was a lot more heat, and these things were toasty warm. So that made it kind of nice for cooking. And this guy, it'll collapse down. It's not too bad. And then the stove, it's got some ashes and stuff in there I'll have to clean up, but this glass door is really nice with the paracerium glass. You can see a little bit in there. And for several nights of burning, that's not too bad. Paracerium glass. That's how you say it. So it's basically a ceramic, and it's really heat tolerant to like 3,000 degrees or so. Titanium's kind of like that too. It's good to like 3,000. So your fire is probably going to be like 1,000, 1,500 or something at best. I mean, it's not going to get anywhere near, you know, the melting point of this stuff. So you don't have to worry about it. But it's nice that if you got a little bit of cold startup sooty conditions, by the time that fire gets hot, any soot that's on that glass is just gonna vaporize off of it, and it kind of cleans itself. So that's the neat thing about it. With the frame that it's in, helps protect it a little bit. I'd still be careful with it. It's got some bubble wrap that came with. I'll probably keep it in that, so that way I don't accidentally, you know, tumble it or lose it, or, you know, or hurt it in some way. But yeah, it's a nice tent. Nice and relaxing. Let's give you guys another look at this before we take this bad boy down. But that stove jack worked fairly well. This is just my standard 8-foot pipe that I have. I use this one for, I think, the Red Cliff, and have it for this one, and I think I use it for the 4-man teepee as well. But yeah, I've got a few different lengths of pipe. Got a 12 or 13-foot pipe for the Big Mama, for the 16-man teepee, and that's like the big dog. And then, like I said, this one I think is an 8-foot pipe, if I remember the writing on my tube. And then I've got another one, it's maybe like a 5.5 or 6-footer that I use for some of the shorter tents. And you only need a few of them. I mean, ideally you want them to stick maybe a foot, up to 2 foot max above the ridge line of any tent shelter that you're in. That's at least a foot, just so that if there is any ash, depending on what type of wood you burn, that blows away from the tent at a high enough elevation. 2 feet probably the most you'd want to stay above, because you get any higher than that and then you're going to be subject to wind and all that, and you don't want your pipe kind of rattling down here and pull out of the stove while it's burning. So just have a few different lengths, and it just makes it simple. I can just use it for whichever of the tents that's in that zone. Seek Outside's got kind of like a table on their website that shows like what stoves, what pipe lengths, and the heights of the shelters and all that stuff for any of the shelters that they have. And I mean, it's a pretty good guide to go off of. And like I said, this one I just used the extra large stove. I've got this, I got the Big Mama, I got the medium, and I do have the old Cub. And the Cub, I only use that on a couple things, like a silver tip and a Silex. just because it's so small and compact, but you're feeding that one all the time. This one, you can put some decent sized chunks in it. Not full length, that's where you go to the Big Mama, but for a lot of the shelters, the Red Cliff and this courthouse and whatnot, even the 4-man, I just used the XL and it seems to work fairly well. That 24-man teepee is the only one I use the Big Mama on, and you know, you can use that in a wall tent too, but that one you can put full length in. You know, you can put 16-inch pieces in that one, but this one, yeah, you're a little limited. You know, you got to cut it down to like 10 inches or whatever it was, or a foot. I forgot the dimension, but anywho, you can find all the information on Seek Outside's website, seekoutside.com, and yeah, if you give a chance, you want to go camp up in Colorado out in the woods and bring some buddies along and have cots and whatnot, this is a pretty good tent for it. Well, my little helper came out and helped me put this away. So there's a storage roll bag to store everything in. I got the tent right here in its bag. Got a steak bag, and I got some of them that I'm washing. And I got 2 pull bags here. So it all fits in there. And then you got ratchet down straps for that and carry handles. So it turns out pretty well.